Welcome to the Public Speakers Educational Module Series. And I'm excited today to introduce to you one of our amazing members, Mr. Max Fortune, who is the owner and CEO of Max Publishing Group. So Max, why don't you just take it away and wow us today?
All right. Well, Tanya, thank you. Again, I wanted to start off by saying thank you for allowing me to share some information that will be helpful to really anyone who's looking to grow their business with a book. And I also would like to thank everybody who's taking time out of their busy day to actually tune in and gain some information that could help transform their speaking business. And to just kind of introduce myself, my name again is Max Fortune. I'm an author, a publisher, a book coach, a TV show host, a motivational speaker, entrepreneur, and a business consultant. And I personally have written 3 books, and my first book was published in 2008. It was called Success, the Blueprint to Achieving Your Dreams and Goals. And my second book was called Get Rich in Your Niche. I published that one in 2015. And my latest book is titled How to Publish a Book and Make a Fortune. So that's what we're going to be kind of talking about a little bit today, some of those topics of how do you do that. And so I know what it's like to want to write a book and not knowing what to write and where to start, and even be concerned with what I didn't know about publishing a book. It was a whole lot I didn't know back when I first started. And so I've actually created an incredible system that, you know, lets most people write their books in 90 days or less. And that's really kind of some of the information I want to share today. And before I kind of do that, I do want to kind of go a little bit into a little bit about my story, or about me a little bit further. And like most aspiring authors, when I was writing my first book, there were so many challenges that I had to deal with. And I had to figure out really what to write about. And I really didn't know at the time what my subject matter was going to be. I didn't know how to start it. I didn't know how to get my thoughts organized. What was the best time to write my book, or how to even stay disciplined. And I mostly struggled with not having a plan altogether. So, you know, I lost a lot of time trying to figure it out, how to approach writing my first book. And so when I finally got an outline, I walked around with it for about 5 years, waiting for the right time to appear, as most people do. And of course, we know that that never happened. So I wasted so much time simply because I really just didn't have a plan or a guide for writing my book. And so, you know, when I discovered that I had to make a decision and I had to just decide to start writing every day, it was at that time that I started writing my first book. And at that time I was a single dad, and I was also a business owner, like many people are. You know, you got busy lives. I was running a busy document preparation company at that time. And I discovered that if I took my outline and just wrote on 1 or 2 topics a day for an hour or so, I could really chip away at it. And so that's what I did. You know, I always think writing a book is almost like eating an elephant. You can only do that one piece at a time. And so that's really the approach that I took with it. And so every morning I would, between 7 and 8 a.m., I would be in my truck. And honestly, I wrote my first book in the back of my truck. I had a Toyota Sequoia, and I just parked up the bowling alley and from where I lived, and got from 7 to 8, that's where I wrote for an hour. And it was just someplace different that didn't have any distractions. And that is one of the things I want to talk about as far as writing and kind of getting your book out, or putting a book together. You almost have to have a special place, or a place that you don't do a lot of other things, is doing at the kitchen table, or a place you do other things. It becomes a distraction. So that was an important step that I took. And kind of once I kind of got that down, it took me 90 days to actually write my first book after walking around with it for 5 whole years. So again, it was just making that commitment to write it. And, you know, I'm sure many of you who do public speaking to touch lives and to change lives from the front of the room, the amazing thing is, just like speaking, you don't know the lives your book will touch or change either. And that's why it's important to just write it. My focus and goal was, I just wanted my children to not grow up poor like I did. And even though my name is Fortune right now, it wasn't always that way. My mom did her best. My mom was a single mom with 8 kids, and she was a nurse, and my father wasn't around or in the picture at all. So it really was a struggle as a kid growing up. And I grew up in a rough area of East Baltimore, and I still remember being the family that got the Thanksgiving and the Christmas baskets and the canned goods that other families collected during the holidays. And I can't tell you how that still has impacted me even to this day. The one thing I'll really quickly touch on, I remember Montgomery Wards wanted to do something special for kids who were underprivileged, and they bussed us all to this to Montgomery Wards, and we had shoes we picked out. And I just remember coming back to school the next day, and the shoes were called Skips, and I think they were called that because that's what we should have did the next day. I got teased so bad, it was horrible. But I remember getting my first pair of Adidas shoes out of the trash can, believe it or not. So it was just kind of like that. But I was fortunate enough in life to get a scholarship to Loyola High School, which was a private school, and I got a chance to see a lot of different things there. And I was determined to give my kids more than I had growing up. And so when I graduated from Loyola, I started several businesses of my own, but most of them really didn't take off. I started a lot of different things, but I kept trying my hand at any and every legal opportunity I could find. Now, March 2002, I actually started a document prep company, and at that time, I was just seeing clients on the weekends, and after a couple of weekends of doing that, I was actually making more money on the weekend than I was making all week on my job. So naturally, like most people would do, I quit my job and decided to work on my business full time. And at that time, really, I just had enough to actually, for the security deposit and first month's rent, it was on faith. I had enough just to get some of that plastic furniture that you get at Sam's. That was my office setup. But after all of the business that I started that didn't work out, for the first time, I created a very successful business that did work out and that would take care of me and my family for the next 10 years. And so those first 8 months of being in business, my business made about $82,000, which is not a lot of money, but it was back then, and it was so many years ago. And in my first full year of business, I made about $320,000, and since then made over about $2 million with that doc prep company before I sold it off. But while I was running that doc prep company, I wrote my first book. As I mentioned earlier, I was too busy with parenting and running that business to really market the way I should. And so after selling that company, I came back to doing something that I really loved, and that was helping people get their books together. And I really get a lot of immense pleasure out of helping someone put their book together. Watching them hold their book for the first time is just really something that really does my heart good. And, every one of us has some kind of challenge or something we have to overcome in life. I kind of share with you some of the things that I've had to overcome, as a child. And, it's just important to keep in mind that the proper plan, no matter what your past was, you can still change your future and the future of all the other people your book can touch if you just go out there and get it done and get it written. So, again, Mitch and I wrote these 3 books, and I know what it's like to stumble around with an idea without having a plan for writing or staring at the computer, hoping something will come to you, struggling, trying to juggle family responsibilities, as I mentioned earlier, work, and even a personal life, and trying to find time to write is really difficult and challenging for a lot of people. But it took me a while to find the right formula, and I spent the last 3 years compiling the best teachings and strategies into my latest book, How to Publish a Book and Make a Fortune. Now, success always comes down to time and money, in my opinion, and when it comes to writing your book, you really need some type of way to help you save time and actually help you find the money that it takes to get your book into print. And, since then, I've helped numerous authors get their books published faster and quicker than they could ever imagine. And so let's just go over why should you have a book. I mean, as a speaker, it's very important to have a book. But, one of the things I like to say, writing a book is an instant credibility booster. The moment you're an author, your credibility just really goes through the roof. And as a speaker, writing a book is, like I said, one of the fastest ways to gain credibility. It's the fastest way to establish yourself as an expert in your field. It increases the audience your message can reach, because you can only speak to so many people, but have a book and the book goes on to other places. Again, it just extends and expands your reach. Also, it allows you to leave a legacy behind for years to come, as well as, a book has the power to change people's minds, relationships, and their lives, which is also the main reason why many people get into the speaking business to begin with, is to change lives and to transform people or help people to transform their lives. So, I wanted to go over some interesting stats about authorship or becoming an author. And, ironically, about 81% of the people out there have an interest in writing a book or think that they should write a book or want to write a book. And ironically, a lot of people don't know this. Last year, about 400,000 plus books were self-published in the U.S. alone. So it's a lot of books. And you know what? That can be encouraging or discouraging depending on how you look at it. But the most important decision is that you actually decide to write your book, and is really determining what you're going to write your book about also. And knowing the difference between your passion book and your profit book. There sometimes can be two different things. Your passion book is the book of where you write about something you absolutely love, and your profit book is the book that you have that you know will make you money. And most times that's around your speaking business or the business that you have. And so if you're really, really lucky, they're both one and the same, you know? And so focusing on what to write about is very, very critical and very important in the process. Many people, again, have thought about writing a book, and unfortunately, most people's, it ends just right there at the thought of writing a book. Now, I have several books, and I can tell you that it takes a serious amount of conviction to writing a book. It's not easy, but it's also not impossible. Now, in order to write your book, you must be focused, determined, and committed. And usually you're surprisingly can get so much done, even with just an hour a day. You can have a book finished in less than 90 days. So when it comes to writing nonfiction, really, one of the best methods is to go with a subject that you're very knowledgeable about and that you're very passionate about. And again, this way you're both engaging and authentic at the same time. And as a nonfiction author, people expect truth either from your experience or knowledge. So you need to write with authority on your particular subject. And that's really easy for most people who are out there who are speakers already. I mean, again, writing from whatever you're already speaking from is the best way to go or approach putting a book down. And again, your book really can help to position you as an expert in your field, even further than the speaking that you're doing about it. It's also able to open doors in your career, helps you to gain more of your clients or more clients. So it's really important to choose a topic that you want to be associated with now and in the future, and not just something that you did in the past. So again, to something that's still relevant today. So let's talk about how someone finds their passion. If you've been thinking about writing a book and you want to figure out, okay, how do I find my passion? One of the main goals should be to write about something that, again, obviously that you're interested in. And when you're extremely interested in a particular topic or subject, you'll tend to have some kind of conviction and or passion about that matter. So again, one of the ways that it takes to, or some of the things that it takes to find your passion is to really take time to look within, you know, dig deeper. The fact that the payoff can be tremendous along the way. You might learn things about yourself when you start looking introspectively at some of the things that you're passionate about. You also have to be passionate about your subject. The passion is important because you have to be passionate about it to write an entire book on it. I mean, you have to believe in what you're writing about in order for it to come through as true and authentic. And so let's talk about some of the pointers for finding your passion. How do you do that? And one first thing is really knowing yourself. And that may sound simple and easy to do, but it's taking some time to introspectively, again, think about the things that you're really passionate about, what your message is, what you think your core message is, and also defining some of your qualities. You know, determine the values that define who you are, the skills that you enjoy, that the interests that are fulfilling and fun for you also are great ways in helping you define what your passion is. And it's also important to make sure that you create a vision for that passion. And by outlining a rough vision based on that, again, it will help you, you know, in the long run to give you a roadmap for your writing and what you want to achieve. The final part of the process of really discovering your passion is creating an action plan based on all you've learned. So you may find that there are many passions and options for your life in addition to writing. It's important to know what you hope to accomplish with your book. That's very important. And you should know the message that you're trying to send and whom that message is supposed to reach. So in other words, you also, or when it comes to writing your book, one of the best things to focus on is what need, desire, or problem can you solve? What need, desire, or problem is your this book going to solve? And I'm speaking to a lot of speakers there. I know that that's also something that most of speakers are focused on too. So a lot of what I'm covering today actually kind of works for both people who are speakers and definitely people who are looking to write a book or add a book to that business. In other words, what you want to do is be focusing on what your appeal is. And it's really difficult to tempt people with what you have to offer, really, unless you know exactly what it is that you're offering and why is it that people should care about it. And so that's one of the reasons. You also want to know who you want to reach, or who do you need to reach with your book. I mean, now it's at the time you're putting together a book, or even you're assessing your speaking career, it's very important to determine and describe who you need to reach. Who actually, given what you have to offer, who will be the most interested and why, and who will benefit the most are some of the things you want to look at, as well as who's your ideal prospect, So it's very important to target an audience. And one of the biggest mistakes writers and speakers makes is believing that the larger the potential market, the greater the chances that their book or speaking will get noticed. And in fact, the opposite is really often true. The larger the market, the more competition you're likely to have, and the bigger the drain on your resources. So sometimes trying to appeal to the masses, instead of understanding that there's the needs, wants, and desires of a select few, actually is the recipe for disaster. So finding and narrowing your niche will help you get to reach and appeal to more people that will ultimately buy your book or your speaking services. Now, it's also important to do research before you write your book. And I mean, for all the people who are speakers, I know this is something they don't have to do. You're already speaking in a niche. And so you already know what that target market is in most cases. If you don't, or if you're still establishing that, then that's really important. So it's important to know exactly who you're writing your book for and why will your book appeal to them. And one of the things that, as you're kind of going through that, some of the things that you want to focus on is what are your core clients, what are their hopes and their fears and their dreams, what are their desires and their motivations, their interests or concerns, or what are the problems that your book or even your speaking will help them to solve. And so those are really good key things to focus on when it comes to putting a book together, but also your speaking business is important to focus on those things, helping people resolve certain issues. So I want to kind of also go into something I talk a lot about, which is having a business or creating a business around your book. And most people will earn more money as an author and a speaker if they brainstorm additional ways to build a business around their book or their speaking business. And earning a living, especially as an author, you have to definitely think beyond your book. And so if you're an author and you're working to build your platform and secure more book sales, then you have to have a brand. And when you have a brand, you must have content, a content strategy in place so that you can stay top of mind with your brand. And so it's actually best to consider the different types of products or services you might offer that relate both to your books and to your expertise. So here are 6 different things that I like to talk to people about that they can do to actually create additional revenue streams. And some of those things are teleseminars and webinars, are things they do, much like with this one here, using online teaching methods, are really important way where you can really offer them for free or use it to build a mailing list and then sell the recordings from your website or from your website as products. You can also do classes or courses, and you can offer to teach either in person, but you can also teach online. And again, that's expanding your reach if you're doing a class online. And pretty much once you've taught a series of classes using teleseminars or webinar technology and recorded them, then you could sell them as a home study program or as a pre-recorded class. So that's another method for marketing or building a business around your speaking or writing business. Also, coaching or consulting services. So if you're an expert or authority on any topic, you can offer group coaching or one-on-one coaching. And many people call this their Rent Their Brain series or Rent My Brain series or mastermind groups. It's another way of monetizing a book and or speaking services, along with membership sites. So private members, membership-only sites are one of the best ways to monetize really an author's knowledge. And really, you don't really need much to get that done. A lot of times you just need a blog and a plugin to make it work. And there's so many out there that exist. I would put my number out there if somebody needs it later. But again, you just have to have a way of putting your content behind closed doors and where actually people pay a monthly or yearly fee to access it. The other thing is speeches or talks. And anybody who's out here who already is a speaker, they know how really how to monetize that. But again, speaking for people who are authors is very, very important. Adding that element in, those two things go hand in hand. I can't say enough about, people speaking from the front of the room and then having something to sell at the back of the room is really important for growing your business. But in addition to writing a full-on book, there's short ebooks that can be done, white papers, guides, or reports that also can help that you can package and market with other services, whether it's be your coaching services, some of the other things I mentioned, your webinars and seminars, and packaging those things together, actually create another form of monetizing your business. Also, figuring out what the community that you're targeting does, where they are, connect with those activities. seeing what those people do, where they do it, and what they read, how they read it, what their biggest celebrations are, and so on. And so how can you connect with them? Finding different ways to connect with that core group, again, gives you another in or another way to find out how you can deliver services to that core group. And the most important thing I just tell people, especially authors all the time, is that it's very important to not look at yourself as really just a writer or an author, but really as a business person. And if you only see yourself as a author or a speaker, you'll never be able to really wrap your mind around being a business person. And all of this is about business and about growing that business. So one of the things I just want to go back to with putting a book together, I'm talking about how important it is. And it's about finding the right time to write, finding the right place to write, putting a plan together for a book, and really setting some realistic goals. So I always like to use that. I'm sure many people heard of that acronym SMART, which is setting specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, and timely goals. And for any endeavor, it's very important to be able to have specific goals, not just broad goals when it comes to making a plan or being successful. And the goals are important that they're measurable. And so it's, instead of just saying, I want to work on a book or my book 3 times a week, have a more measurable goal. Like I want to write 3 times this week and not stop till I've written 2,000 words or 1,000 words or whatever. Goals definitely should be actionable. And again, it's thinking beyond things like finishing my rough draft in 3 months or something like that. I mean, if you have action to your goals, it just makes them a lot more attainable. And also being realistic, making sure that most people are very busy in today's day and age. And you want to make sure the goals that you're setting, again, are achievable. And then being timely. For a goal to reach, it has to have a time limit. So if you have a goal and without a time limit, then again, a lot of times those goals are targets that usually never get hit. So it's really important to have a time limit on it. And again, you can have the best intentions in the world, but intentions really don't mean anything without actions to back it up. So one of the things also, that I'm a big proponent of self-publishing, and Fortune Publishing Group helps people to self-publish their books. And there are so many different ways that I cover. I'm going to talk about this class at the end of this presentation, but there's a class that I offer and shows you so many different ways to pay for your book. Sometimes getting a book done can be expensive. There's a lot of different moving parts to it, but as I go into that class, it shows so many different ways that you can actually have someone else pay for your book. And again, I will give some information on how that can be done a little bit later on. And when it comes to marketing your book and or your speaking business, it's a skill, honestly, that a lot of times most authors especially don't have naturally. And so I strongly encourage authors or people who are writing a book to actually start implementing or creating a marketing plan early on, and really even before they even finish their book. So it takes time to build relationships and to learn your readers' wants and needs and develop a base of fans that are anxiously waiting for your book. So the best thing to do is to grow your readership as you're writing your book. And when it's time to launch your book, you'll already have an invested eager audience. So that's really important. I want to talk about a couple of different ways that anyone has a business, and especially in the speaking business and as an author, that you can market and promote that business through press releases, which really the objective of a press release is to get media attention and coverage. And it's really not necessarily to sell books, but if you're on TV or you're in magazine or newspapers, it will potentially lead to sales. Also, there's social media out there. Everybody's familiar with social media. Today's day and age has really made it very interesting. There's millions of bloggers whose audience a lot of times are more engaging than even traditional press. And so that's another method of getting your book out there or getting your message out there. One of the other things I talk to a lot of authors about is really hiring a publicist. If you're able to do that. Not everybody's able to do that, but if you can afford one, I really highly recommend it because they can actually help jumpstart your career very, very quickly. One of the other marketing techniques is being able to pitch TV and radio stations. And one of the things before pitching your TV, you have to make sure you have a hook. And that's really something that makes a producer want to buy or want to book you actually on above all others who are calling them. And so it's definitely focusing on your hook, what you bring, what special is that special angle that separates you from the rest of other people. And sometimes it's your personal story. Sometimes it's a newsworthy event. that puts you in front and center because of your timely expertise. One of the things I also want to say about that a lot of times the media is not in the business of promoting our business, but when you are an author, you're considered a subject matter expert, a lot of times that will get you media attention because of that, versus them just want to promote your business. So again, that's another great advantage of being an author. And again, having a website is important because that's really the hub where all of the information about you really where people, your readers, connect with you. So that's a very important element. Also, email marketing and having a plan to execute at least one email promotion per month. And again, that most people can sustain that type of marketing to have one campaign a month going out. But the consistency of that really is very important. One of the last things I focus on is speaking engagements for all the people who are speakers out there. You know how important it is to just constantly get out there and get yourself in front of people. And again, the more you do speaking engagements, again, it just offers way more opportunities for people to actually buy your books, and your book spreads your message. So again, in today's competitive world of speaking and authorship, again, the person who is out there the most is going to benefit the most from being able to actually generate business. So those are some of the things that I really want to talk to people about and go over. I want to go over so many of the aspects of what it takes to get a book published. And even after all of that, there'll be many people listen to this webinar and still really will want to put off writing a book. And most people will think that they don't really know enough to fill a book. If you know more than the guy next to you or the girl next to you, you know enough to help them really get started pursuing their dreams. And that means you know enough to write a book, especially if you're doing the speaking business. If you're speaking about a particular subject, you definitely, have some type of expertise and could definitely help someone, or definitely could put that expertise into a book. One of the other things that I hear a lot about why people put off getting their book done is some people feel like nobody wants to hear their story. I told a little bit about my story in the beginning, and you just never know who your story can impact or touch or influence. And there's so many people who are going through similar situations. And by you writing your story, you may be able to help someone else. And so I always say that that's a very important thing, but a lot of people feel like their story is not important enough. There's a lot of people who come to me and they tell me, listen, I really don't even know how to get started with my book. And so that they let that be a roadblock to getting started. And really, getting started is as simple as writing a sentence, writing one sentence that summarizes the story. It gives people an idea of what they'll learn from your book. That's a beginning. That's a start. So the important thing is just getting started. I also hear a lot of most people say, hey, listen, I'm not good at writing. And honestly, the only way to get good at writing is to do it. The more of it that you do, the better you get at it. And again, we have editors who help you with the editing piece, so you don't really worry about that part when you're writing. But I always suggest people just practice writing 30 minutes a day. You'd be surprised how much you can get done. And it's like anything else. It's the more you do it, the better you get at it. But the chief reason I hear why most people don't want to take the time to write a book or just don't write a book is because they feel like they don't have enough time. And you know what? I get that more than anything else. And everybody's busy. We all have the same 24 hours. It's what you do at that time that makes the difference. And so procrastination is human. But I want you to keep in mind that productivity is more about managing energy than managing time. So that's an important element. So what I want to do also at this time is we're kind of wrapping up. I know I just got 30 minutes. I wanted to talk a little bit to this group about a 12-week training experience that I created. It's called the Authorpreneur Masterclass, where I literally break down the complete book writing and marketing system and walk you through how to get your book written step by step by step. I actually have my, I don't know if you can get this in there or not, but I actually have a textbook that goes along with the online course, but it just takes you through day by day how to get your, how to get through that book in 90 days. So it's a 90-day course, day 1, day 2, day 3. It tells you exactly what to do each day. And if you follow everything, and again, that's the way to be successful in getting a book done is to just take a step every single day, do something a day. And this course actually really coaches you on what helping you get writing assignments done. If you do, it's about 45 minutes to an hour a day, you do one of these assignments, and at the end of 90 days, you'll actually have a manuscript that's ready to be handed over to an editor. I mean, it's a really proprietary method I've done with so many other authors. And again, it's really designed for busy people like most of you, I would imagine, that are watching. But it actually walks you through in the end of 90 days. It actually will help you how to plan your book, how to write it, how to publish it, how to pay for it, and how to market it. I mean, all those things are covered in that course. And there's so many ways that tricks to help you to stay focused, determined, and committed when it comes to writing your book. So focus on how to help you find the best topic to write about, how to write your book in 90 days, as I mentioned before, how to set realistic goals and deadlines, which is a really important part of this whole thing. And the main reason why you want to create a catchy title, elements of an amazing book cover, how to pay for your book. There's 4 amazing ways that I talk people how to. I mean, I've helped so many people just get a book done where they pay no money out of their own pocket to get their book actually published. And there's so many different ways to do that. And this course covers so many different ways to do that. The course also covers the proper way to pitch TV and radio stations and to get on local TV and things that will definitely land you on local and national TV. Focuses on how to create a business around your book and so much more. And so I can't really say enough about how it's compiled all the information that I have and what I struggled with in the beginning, almost 10 years ago with trying to get my first book together. This just kind of answers that and just really makes it very simple for anyone. Like I said, this process is not for every single person, but the people who are ready to take their business to the next level, I definitely would recommend them taking this Authorpreneur Masterclass and being able to get that book done. And really, I have actually a link set up. And Tanya, if you're able to turn over the control of the screen, I just want to put a link up on the screen, or I just want to put a link on the screen. And it's really going to askme.com.
I've given it over to you, so you can click away. You should have screen share abilities right now.
All right. Let's see if let me see if I can share. Okay, my share screen is not. You know what? My screen is up. I'm not sure if it's showing.
Here, I'll do it again.
Host now. Okay, host now. All right, so let me see if I can go into my. All right.
It should have popped up for you.
All right, so let's do this. Let me see if I can. No, it's actually not. Let me show my screen. What I wanted to do, I just wanted to put a link up on the screen is all I really wanted to do, which was.
Why don't you put it in the chat window, and then I could put it in the mods page for everybody to click on.
All right, sounds good to me. I will do that. And let me put that here. But it's just www.askmaxfortune.com/PSA for Public Speakers Association. I put a special offer up there. And for anyone who is actually interested in this course, they can simply go there. And like I said, I have a special offer. Let me put that in the chat. And people can go there and actually access some of the information and access this course if they're really interested in doing putting a book together. So that's what I wanted to share, Tanya. I really want to thank you for your time. Everybody out there is listening. Thank you for giving me the time to talk about the importance of a book and how it could change your business.